But what is new is the increasing volatility. Some people are frightened of it, culture, and I think most people are excited about it. And we do live in exciting times. One of the exciting things about WTT is knowing what's going to happen when Geoffrey Kent is with him. Geoffrey Kent, one of the founders and one of the past chairman of the WTTC, has become personally conducted all around the world, for I know, is his guest. I'm going to let Geoffrey introduce the guest himself, Geoffrey Kent.
Thank you very much, Nick. We're going to have a really ask Geoffrey Katzenberg, who's an old friend of mine, traveling friend. He's a legend in the industry. He has done some amazing, I think, 28 animated pictures. He has been nominated for 9 Academy Awards. He's had 2 wins. So I would like to clip on Geoffrey, and then he'll come up.
Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. Yeah!
You really need to see this.
Dad. Son.
Here we go! God, did you see that? What time?
Hi! Surprise, freaks! That was my fist.
Really?
Woohoo! Yeah!
Welcome, Geoffrey. Well, I think we've been traveling like 20 years together, which is around the world. Very. And I think we're working out onto every single corner. And going back, say, a long, long time, I remember in Africa that we were just down there the other day. We were driving through the Masai Mara, and some warthogs came running out in front of us, intellectual on the spot. He said, turned around and said, "They're called Pumbas now." And he turned it. So why don't I switch over to Lion King? Because really, you know, when we're talking about travel and tourism, I think Lion King really brought safaris alive to how he fantasized it, what he thought about it, how he executed it, etc.
Well, one of my travels around the world is inspiration. You know, inspiration every day. You know, you actually have to have your eyes and your ears. A story that came out of my travels from Africa. There was actually a story I wanted to tell, but to set it in, you remember we visited Chengdu about a decade, visited the pandas, and
we hugged a panda.
We actually
they hugged me more than you.
We held those little pandas in our hands, and you know, love with that panda, and wanted to celebrate it. And Madagascar, you know, our travels to Madagascar, yes. And just this amazing. You know, there really have been sort of 3 things that have really driven me, and today has been just a real curiosity, a wanting to see the world, a love, and a true deep explore it and understand it and get as close to it as I possibly can. Second is you know, just the pure joy of it, and I'm sure you'll tease me a little bit about our travels together.
About that in a minute.
And the third is that I've used travel as a way to entertain and reward business with, and you know, we're running around the world and promoting our movies, and we find ourselves in different parts of that sort of thing where we have treats along the way, where we find a day or 2 in between our stops and go do in their own by their own choice or their own lives in this. And about to do a really stupid thing, which is I had some I don't know, a whole series of photos from those various travel, which are with talent, you know, from different things in it. And so we just put it on a little loop, and they'll put it behind us, and no one in this audience is going to bother looking at you and me for the rest of this, but some of our travels.
I mean, I remember one thing, you know, Geoffrey does spring these things on me, and he said, okay, I remember we had Jerry Seinfeld. We can't land here. And so we asked him why. I said, well, he ran away from that kibbutz when he was a young guy.
When he was 16 years old.
And the way of traveling, by the way, it starts like at 5 a.m. away till about midnight if you're lucky. So that's quite long. We get a lot done in one weekend, and part of Jordan and all over the place. Back in Jerusalem, and there was this really bedraggled figure in the bottom of the elevator. I think I'd said goodnight to you, and over his head I said, are you okay? He said, that was really crazy. So tell me, how do they come back after these trips, Jeffrey?
Well, they love it. Believe it or not, about making a movie is you then have to go out and market and sell it. And we do these pretty grueling, 12-country in these weekends while we finish one night. We finished with Hugh Jackman in Madrid, in Berlin until Monday morning. So as you know, and did a wonderful 48 hours, and he had his children with him. And, it's a trip to this day, and that had to be, I never see him, I never see his wife, in which they have these, so it's actually ended up being incredibly valuable, frankly, for business.
So tell me, do you think of the idea first, or do you have you're on location and that gives you the idea, or do you saying, wow?
Pictures you'll see here is that we send our filmmakers on these research trips to see what the real world looks like, because remember, everything we do in animation, and so inspiration can come from many, many, many different places. And so their third picture, we've always sent them here to China to find things that they could integrate into their story, a verisimilitude of things that, people, and I think that has actually been, was a part of watching enormous success here in China, because it really understood, embraced, and integral into the filmmaking.
And has it been the number one spot in the animated feature films in China? Kung Fu
Yeah,
Panda?
Kung Fu Panda is actually the most successful animated movie here. Foods actually last year is number 2, and I think we have 5 of the top in tune with this market.
To give you some idea of the hecticness of these trips, what really happens is Jeffrey plans them. He calls me up one day and said, we got 6 days and we want to do all of South America, and that includes feature in between, go down Patagonia, maybe go to Atacama to a 13,000-foot cocktail. And so that's what we're faced with. And we feel at the end of all those trips, Jeff.
Well, I love it. I mean, friends is Mark Burnett. He's a great television producer. He does Survive, The Voice, and he's another one of those guys always telling about his SAS days. So when he and Geoffrey travel, he's an extreme traveler. And so we get together, and about once every 18 months or so, we go on some just challenging trip. And the last one we did, which was last fall, we did all of South. Sleep is for when you finish the trip. We don't believe in sleeping on the trip. And my thing is to see as much as I possibly can. I just, more you can take in, just the more exciting it is.
And how you...
Well, the office, that's what's so incredible about the world that we live in today is, bring a, smartphone and an iPad, and, you can do anything about tourism today. The ability of people to, I guess maybe I'm wrong. I don't like turning it off. The idea that, you're going to go away somewhere and I'd rather try and just stay up on it every day. Coming back and looking at, a week or 10 days finished business, I'd rather find an hour or 2 every night to deal with it.
We had many amusing landed in Zambia, do you remember? And Jeffrey has this really quite smart. The president of Zambia was there, and he had an old propeller silver thing, which getting off and walking around the BBJ. I said to Jeffrey, I think we've just lost our plane. But let's go on from that business travel, all right? You travel a huge amount. Nobody travels more than Jeffrey. I think he does 17 hours. What do you do?
Probably, flying, 700, 800, 850 hours a year now, probably more. I'm for the last 2.5 years, because it's a place of such incredible opportunity right now. We're building an animation studio in Shanghai. We've got a nighttime entertainment partnership with Lan Kuai-Fan, Alan Zeman in the middle of Shanghai. It's a development called Dream Center. It's just a place of amazing opportunity, and personally on it is the only way.
But it's amazing because I saw how that took place. You know, when 1 minute in Chengdu, and then Theo's been going here every single month for 2 days, and you've created this animation studio, as you've discussed, and your also works Dream Parks. Tell us about that.
Well, we've been, in itself now, so kill it at some point there. I think we've sort of looped through it enough. One of the things that characters enough stories to actually create what we think would be a very singular, unique, new kind of theme park experience and a half or so, and we're just about ready to unveil it, but it's a under roof, about 1 million square feet, slightly bigger, about a 6-hour attractions that compares to about 38 or 39 for Disneyland, and it can operate very immersive, unique, I think, new way of looking at theme parks. And I all day yesterday touring here in Hainan, and I think this is certainly one of the places that so to in the tourism business.
And tell us how you keep fit when you do these incredible... You sent me an email. We got in at like 5 in the morning. One word back, sissy. So tell us how you keep fit.
No, but I think for all of travel is a huge, huge part of our lives, and so I don't get to take any credit whatsoever for them in it. It's something in my genetics, my DNA, which really fine on 5 hours sleep, so that's kind of unfair, a day a week. And the second thing is that somehow or another I've been able to sort of get my clock on the world that wherever I'm going, as opposed to actually don't ever get jet lag, which is kind of incredible. Now, I don't know whether anybody else ever tries these, which is I actually don't eat 12, 14, 18 hours coming here in this, but I actually am religious about it. I don't eat at all on a plane. I don't drink. I go to the gym. And I just, somehow or another, the comp has just worked incredibly well for me.
Geoffrey, you've also done a great deal in philanthropy too, and you were awarded the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award, which is probably one of the most prestigious Academy Awards. Would you like to tell us what you do in because it's from your heart, I know.
Yeah, I just think that among the most blessed in the world, and we have so much, and that there is here's the way I will explain it to you. When I was a young kid, one experience as a kid was a movie called Spartacus, and I just thought it was an incredible movie, and it had this great character, Spartacus, Kirk Douglas. Years later, he was making a movie for me when I was running Disney, and he was in the middle of, he was 75 years old at the time, and I wished on his lunch break he was actually taking a break. He was working with, and I got to his trailer, and everybody left, and I said, what are those people doing? And he talked about a philanthropy project of theirs in which they were rebuilding every single school with no credit. Nobody ever knew about it. And he had done at the time like 100 and some odd of the schools. And he's continued to do it to this day. And I said to him, you haven't learned how to live until you have learned how. Those words have resonated and stayed with me. And I don't know whether it's because Spartacus said those words to me. I found in that an amazing truth. I have to say, alive today, I think I lived in a house in a home where there was great, so I think it's something that I was around, but I to us in life, in which, you actually think about the quality of ways in it. And so for me, I love my work. I truly, genuinely love my work. And if I could do it 7 days a week, all the better for me. But to that, my family, and they're important to me, but things for others has just made, the rewards of life very special.
And, I travel with you everywhere, and I've always seen you have a great attendance, whether it doesn't matter where we are, in the middle of Africa, or the people and how they're doing, and that's why I know you look at tourism and how we've actually created jobs, how we've really transformed the world. And I think with your, let's say with your different animated. One other thing, you know, because I sit on, you know, it's quite boring. Actually, I've got to sit with Geoffrey for hours on end sometimes. The other day, I think we came from the southernmost tip of Chile all the way to LA. And he has some great full of Geoffrey. And I mean, this is incredible what he's created, both the fantasies and what he's actually done. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your philosophy of success, should do, and how do we win in life, etc.
You know, referencing is it something we've talked about many times before? A sort of a, I guess, an overriding that I do, and I have tried to inspire it in the people that, frankly, other, you know, people in my life, and it's kind of simple in this way, which is in everything that I do, and I don't want you to think that you can actually succeed in that. The conscious thought about how can you do just a little bit better. So I talk often to our, you know, the most important thing about our movies is if we can exceed the expectation of people, then we will have blockbusters. And then I think about it down to the started, as most everybody does, you know, as a gopher, as a young kid, you know, jobs, no matter how menial or how small or how big or how important the job was, bit better than what I'm expected and what is expected of me. And I can tell you, if you do that from a career standpoint, when I guarantee you, you exceed expectations on some kind of a regular basis. You are, and if you think about that idea and you carry it from your day, even as the CEO of a company, I want to try to exceed the expectations of our shareholders, of my board, most importantly of my customer general, which is, you know, friendship. Friendship is something that I find, when I think about it, I think many of us take that a bit. People who are important to me, I try to exceed their expectations. I can tell, I hear from you before you've heard from me. Okay, well, that's not an accident. And the reason is you are actually, you know, I don't want to say infrequently, because from time to time, but you do know that there's no such thing as how you doing, what are you up to, what part of the world are you in, you know, what adventure are you in the middle of in it, because you matter. And so I know you've never acknowledged or said this, but try to put a little bit more into this and that relationship than me. Now I can actually take this even one step further in this. I've been in Hollywood, I've lived there my whole career. 9 years. Now, you know, it was my wife's birthday last week. Expectations. So, you know, and I actually have that thought, okay, what are we going to do? What am I going to do to think special and not take it for granted? And so I get out here, I actually walk up here, and whether I can succeed at it or not, I actually have that moment in which I would love to be able to exceed the expectations here. And as I say, you don't always succeed at it, but the attempt is a valuable way to kind of look at day-to-day life, every part of it.
It's wonderful, and it's true. I mean, I do get these of the Amazon, or I'm just diving in Galapagos, or lost in the Serengeti, and we have a little interchange, and where are you? It always follows up. So, Geoffrey, what's next? You know, we've had Shrek, we've been in India, perhaps? I showed Geoffrey many years ago tigers in Ranthambore.
Amazing trip through many parts, you know, through India, through Rajasthan, up to Varanasi, and I don't know if any of you have ever done this, but truly it is extraordinary places in the world that you can travel and see just a totally different set of and smells and values, and everything about that world is just inspiring. And I was telling Geoffrey just the other day, we are now actually doing a movie, I hope that's going to, the culture of India and many of these things that inspired us. We're doing a kind of loosely inspired by the Ramayana story, which is really one out of India in it. So it can come from pretty much any place. And many of them have come from our travels.
We've coming to the end. Sadly, I see this 000 going on. But
That means get off the stage, Jeffrey.
yeah, but thank you so much for coming, Jeffrey. And you've been an inspiring you do: philanthropy, business, friendship. You're sheer. You love adventure. He never gives. And you come up with these amazing fantasies, which I think have changed all of our lives. And thank you very much, Jeffrey. Really. Thanks, Jeff.